afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Silk Stocking Sisters podcast. I'm your host, Teresa J. Canavit, and today I have another special guest for presentation at today's podcast. I'd like to welcome you all, and I'd like to welcome my guest for today, Dr. Patricia Morris Carey, recently retired Associate Dean and Associate Provost, Vice Provost from NYU, New York University in New York City. Welcome, Dr. Morris Carey.
Thank you, Teresa. It's great to be with you.
I appreciate it. I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but I wanted to share with the audience that we have a professional and personal relationship. We've known each other for several years, and I'm just really surprised. That's why I said you never know people until you know. So I'm just grateful that you've been able to participate in this particular podcast and the fact that you can share some of your experience having dealt with issues of being part of a situation where you go into your neighborhood, you have a busing situation, or wherewithal dealing with educational issues and having diverse educational experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So having said that, can you basically provide some background on, where you lived and the time frame and when you attended the school and what your experiences was? Because basically what I'm trying to share with the audience is different experiences in education in the North as opposed to the South.
Uh-huh. Well, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, in Hyde Park.
Okay.
And, my experience, I started my formal schooling when I was 5 years old. But we moved, and so we moved to Hyde Park in Chicago, and I helped to integrate my elementary school there.
Now,
And
where did you live before Hyde Park? Were you always in the Chicago area?
I was always in the Chicago area. Yes, yes. So I'm a Chicagoan. I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
Yes. Although I live in New York now for many, many years, and I consider myself a New Yorker.
Absolutely.
Naturalized citizen of New York.
Okay.
And the time period I'm really focusing on is when I was in fourth grade. I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, and so now that I am a seasoned individual, that would have been around the late 40s, early 50s. Long time ago. Fourth grade.
That was the same year that I experienced the process, and I talk about the book. I was in the fourth grade when I actually was part of this process of going into another school to make it a so-called desegregation process.
And so when I think about my experience, I talk about it in terms of being in the fourth grade, and that was my first public act of nonviolence.
Really?
Now, nonviolence was not part of my vocabulary. I wasn't I was sophisticated, of course, but nonviolence was not part of that vocabulary. It soon became part of my vocabulary as I grew older.
How was that? How do you transition from knowing at the fourth grade that you were part of something, and then you're saying the nonviolence perspective? When did that become more of a reality for you?
Long afterwards, when I became aware of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his whole act of nonviolence, his preaching of nonviolence, his way of affecting social change through nonviolent acts.
Okay.
So in fourth grade, I was one of 2 Black girls in my class. And my teacher, who was white, was intent on training our young voices. This was our music class. And among the songs she chose for us was Stephen Foster's Old Black Joe, which is about a slave, now free, who was expressing deep regret, feeling loss. The slavery was no more. Gone are the days, the song goes, when my heart was young and gay. Gone are the toils of the cotton fields away. Gone to the fields of a better land. I know. I hear those gentle voices calling, Old Black Joe. I could only hear a moaning in his voice to bring back slavery. And really, as I think about it, those were early echoes of Make America Great Again.
Oh.
You can hit the website to hear the song, get the voices, the words to the song. Now, I don't believe our teacher, Miss Ellis, and I still remember her name. So that really made an impact. She made an impact on my life. Miss Ellis, I don't believe, realized the potential impact the words of that song selection might have had on at least some of her students.
Right.
Because her goal was to hear harmony in our young voices, our innocent voices.
Right.
So after being humiliated, embarrassed, and angry long enough, I convinced the other Black girl in our class to substitute the words white for Black
Oh, really?
in the song. Yes. So nervous, I am sure, with butterflies in our stomachs. And as loud as we could, we sang just that. We sang Old White Joe when the song called for singing Old Black Joe. And you know, Teresa, after class, we gave Miss Ellis a note to explain why we chose this way as our way to get her attention.
Okay.
And to let her know that singing this song hurts. Slavery is wrong.
Okay.
And you know, after that day, our class never sang Old Black Joe ever again.
At all? Not at all?
Not at all. This was triumph. And small though it seemed, this was social change. And oh, I didn't know those words either at the time. Social change, nonviolence. I learned those long years afterwards as a result of reading about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
So that was your advocacy.
Absolutely.
In the fourth grade, that was your way of advocating.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now my question was, how was the teacher's reaction? Was she annoyed or was she surprised? Can you give me a description of how you think she felt when you made this change and you presented her with this note? What do you think her reaction was? What type of emotional reaction do you think she had?
You know, I was not so much looking at her because I was so nervous. And I wanted to do what I had to do. And so I was selfishly focusing on me.
Okay.
And my message to her and to the class and the hurt that I felt. And so I would imagine she was a little surprised because I was a wonderful student and I think I looked innocent and I didn't come to class with boxing gloves on.
Right.
So she was probably surprised to hear this from this little Black girl. I always looked nice. That helped.
That helps. That definitely helps.
And then when we gave her the note after class and she read it, the note explaining our action, I believe she appreciated that. And she was able herself to process that and to think, to reflect.
Right. Right.
I want to think that she had a chance to reflect and to say, oh my God, I didn't realize, because she wasn't used to having Black girls in her class. She, she was used to having white girls, little white girls in her class
Okay.
and teaching music to these young voices.
Was this a co-ed class or a single sex class?
I believe it was a co-ed class.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
It's a co-ed class.
So there were no little Black boys in class.
There was some little boys but mostly little girls. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think that you have to remember now, if we think about this, and this is a teacher, okay? So think about her experience having prepared to be a music teacher.
Yes.
This was a traditional type of situation for her where she would offer these songs without even hesitating about how the words could be perceived by someone who's not, quote unquote, a white student.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And, diversity, inclusion, equity. I don't believe those are part of her vocabulary either.
Absolutely not.
And
It was sound like her experience, but the fact that she reacted and did not use that song again showed that it made a difference.
it did. It did. And it made a difference to me too, because I believed that I had been heard. I had been heard.
Okay. That
I
really,
had been seen.
but think about the young girls who never are seen.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly right.
All right. So in that sense, did you relate this to your parents? This experience?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did.
Okay.
My parents taught us at home that we were somebody,
Okay. Okay.
and we had to stand up for what we believed in and what we believed. And another lesson was to look folks in the eye and hold those shoulders straight and say what you want to say, even though it's scary. So with this experience, and I would go home because my parents would say, well, how was school today?
Right.
What did you do in school today? And this was so big for me that I had to have shared that.
Okay. Okay. But do you think that having had that support at home made a difference in terms of how you responded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because while I was one of the only ones, and I was truly outnumbered, and even with butterflies in my stomach, I stood up. I had to. That was part of valuing my values, valuing myself, and helping others to learn how to value me and or who I am and my background.
But so I'm saying it sounds like this is interesting. One of the things I talk about in the book about parental involvement and parent support and how they want the best for their children. And it sounds like this is very similar to your experience having grown up in Chicago from your home. Your parents wanted you to have the best. They wanted you to be the best. They've taught you that from the home moving forward. It wasn't something that was just oblivious to what, oh, this is what's going on, whatever. But you had already had a good foundation to begin with.
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, because, everything we did, and we had responsibilities in the home. We had chores.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Couldn't just, I had to wash the dishes or set the table, or clean up my room.
Yeah, I know. My sister was a washing dishes and I was a drying the dishing person. I
Right.
swept the kitchen and I mean, we all had some type of responsibility. But do you think that that also said a lot about how we transferred some of those attributes into the classrooms?
Yes, yes. Because I was being taught responsibility.
Okay.
I was being taught to, wherever I am, you have a responsibility to be. I'm trying to say it, and you own where you are.
Okay. Okay.
Own where you are. And so if you own where you are, you have to be part of it. You have to be engaged.
Yes.
You have to take responsibility for it. You cannot sit back and let things happen to you. You've got to help make things happen. And, and you can be rewarded for it. I'm thinking about home and the responsibilities we have.
Right.
And we would be rewarded with our allowance.
Okay.
Probably 5 cents, maybe any at that time. But it was our reward for doing what we were tasked to do and carrying that out.
So in that case, how do you let's think about that in a way of how you transferred those same types of attributes into the classroom when you went to the school?
Yes.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So if we had homework, I did my homework, and I did it to the very best of my ability and to the very, I did it the best I could.
Was that an expectation? No, my question was that an expectation that you
That
be
was the
okay,
very best. That was the expectation,
okay, okay,
be the very best. And so, perhaps it had to do too with my position in the family. I mean, now I'm a psychologist now, and I can look at me and my sisters. I was the middle child.
okay,
And
yes,
so I was always running to catch up to the train that I would never get on. Competition. I mean, I was running, running, running.
right, so you're right.
I'm very competitive.
Yeah,
And even, in my later life, and I still am competitive.
yes. It's
Um,
part of your being, though. That's something you just don't lose. It's the part of the being.
right. That's part of my being. And so I was going to be the very best. And, get A's,
Right.
get B pluses, but do the best.
Right.
Be involved. I joined clubs in elementary school. T- I mean, I can think of the different things that we did.
It sounds like that what you're explaining is very similar to really what took place with all of us in the book, where we participated, we were engaged, and
Right.
we didn't see it like, oh, it was a frightened situation. I'm not going to be involved, whatever.
Right,
We
right.
would step out and take and say, okay, let's try this, and we're going to be the best, and so forth and so. And that's the similar kind. It sounds like you had the similar kind of experience, and you took steps forward instead of backing away and shutting and being frightened. You took the risk. Okay, I'm gonna go out and do this. I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna pursue this. I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna get engaged. Is that what you did throughout that whole
Absolutely.
process?
Absolutely. And I volunteered.
Yeah.
And, I was very nosy. So I want to know what was going on. And so in order to know what's going on, you have to ask questions.
Yes.
You have to ask your classmates. You have to look around. You have to invite yourself.
Well, then ask the question. What about, okay, speaking of classmates, what was the rapport that you received from the classmates, knowing that they're not necessarily accustomed to having someone like you sitting next to them or in their classroom? What was their response?
Do you know, I was thinking about that, and I didn't get the feeling that any one of them obviously shunned me for doing what I did. Um, and I had lots of friends, and
Do you think it was the newness of it all?
yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay. So that was like, it wasn't like they were hindering, oh, I can't sit next to her, and no, I can't speak to her, and no, I can't play with her. But it was like that, but you were all like young children. And so it was like,
Yes, and it's maybe curious. Who is this
right,
person,
right.
and what is she like? Uh, and um, and some of my classmates must have had the same experience I was having at home when their parents would say, "Well, what did you do in school?" Well,
Right.
and this girl, this black girl, did X, Y, and Z. Well, how did you feel about it? And so hopefully we had shared values. At least some of us had some shared values.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
So, but you don't, but you, did you have parties, attend any parties? And did they attend the parties with, what was that experience like, the social aspect?
um, there were parties. I'm sure I wasn't invited to every party.
Exactly. Yeah. But
Uh,
did you attend the party? That's my question. You could be
yes, I
involved.
did.
Did you?
Oh, yes, I attended parties, and I'm trying to remember what parties I attended.
Well, and the fact that you
Or
attended any would have been, would
yeah,
have been
yeah.
great back then.
Or we had outings, and I participated in outings. Um,
Your parents were supportive of that as well.
yes, yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, you knew you had the support of your parents, and you knew you had the foundation coming into the classrooms. All right. So you were confident that when you would be okay, despite what you had no idea what you're going to be confronted with, but you were confident that you felt grounded before you left your home, that before you entered that classroom, correct?
I did. But Teresa, it's interesting. I was also shy. I mean, that sounds ironic, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I was shy, but I took risks. I put myself out there. Um, and I'm wondering, sometimes we we describe ourselves as being shy, when
Yes.
maybe that's not the right descriptor. Um,
You were very introspective, because that's how I know you as an
yeah,
introspective person. That's for sure. That's one descriptor I can use.
yeah.
So maybe that was part of your being. You were very observant, probably, and
Yes, yes.
just came engaged. You observed. You would, say, okay, let me participate in this, and you were engaged. So it didn't frighten you. See, my concern is that oftentimes when there's a newness about something, especially the experience of going to school, being the first one or two Black girls in a classroom, it could be somewhat intimidating.
Very intimidating. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I always had the sense that looking at somebody else, if that person can do it, I can do it too.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, so sometimes I sound very confident, but I wasn't that confident. I learned how to be more and more confident as I became more confident. Do you know?
Do you think that this, now this that's segues to another question. Do you have a sense that having had that exposure, and this is one thing people don't think about this, having had that experience and that exposure really led you to do other things that you may not have done had you not had that experience and exposure in terms of your personal life and your professional life.
Right, right. Because that was pivotal. That was very, very important. And it was at a young age, and it was at the beginning,
Yeah,
beginning
the process, right?
process. Um, and so I got used to being the only one,
Interesting.
and having to speak up and taking risks
Right.
and being nosy and asking questions and getting engaged and raising my hand, volunteering.
Okay. But the thing is, my other question is, what were the other teachers? And then that music situation was really a turning point. That was a turning point.
Yes, it was. And I want to bring in another point too. And that is I grew up in a religious home. And so many of those values are, so-called Christian values. Love your neighbors yourself. Yeah. And so, I'm trying to integrate. I mean, some of those values are integrated into, of course, my behaviors.
Right.
Um,
Subconsciously, though.
Subconscious, absolutely. I mean, when I'm talking, all of this is not conscious.
Right. Exactly.
And you would say, well, my God, Pat was a genius. But I wasn't.
Okay. Okay.
But
You
a
got
lot of
me.
that was
That's funny.
internalized. It was
Yeah.
internalized.
Right. Right. Right.
And it came out in my behaviors, my
But
external behaviors.
and I'm just thinking though, if I still have a sense, had you not had, there had to be something unique about that experience. And I say that because I believe when I interview the other young ladies in the book, when we talk, I asked the questions about this experience that they'd gone through. Did it make a difference and so forth and so, and would they have done it again, not done it again if they had options? And there are different kinds of responses to that. One of the key pieces that I mentioned about the importance of family, and in many cases, the Black church, okay, so you mentioned
Yes.
Christianity, and the community,
The
community
community.
support, okay, as well. So it wasn't like they were by themselves that, the family members supported, the community knew that they were out of school differently from the school, the community school. And then also many people had the Black church was a supporting factor.
Exactly.
And, so I'm just thinking, you're mentioning this also, which means, okay, this is something also that happened in Chicago. Okay.
Right.
Happened in
Yeah.
Chicago still. All right. So it wasn't like this is, see, people have a sense that only certain things occur in certain parts of the country. That's number one.
Right.
Number two is that, oh, it's so frightening that, oh, I would have never done it if it was such and such and such. But my sense is that for you, it sounds like it did make a difference, but you already had the foundation to go forward with it in the first place. Am I correct?
Yes. That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
And too, I lived in an integrated neighborhood,
Mhm. Yeah.
and so, some of my friends were white and Black. There was a Mexican American girl in a later grade.
Right.
Yeah,
The same school though, right?
same school. So it was, and Hyde Park had always been known for its quirkiness,
Right.
being liberal, University of Chicago, folks, great bakeries.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying it, but you had the good foundation.
I did.
foundation.
I
And I
do.
think that in itself is crucial. But I believe that the audience needs to know that having a good foundation helps support whatever it is that
That's it.
happens in one's life. So if you don't have a good foundation early on, it's more difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's more difficult to go through whatever it is a person needs to go through in an educational point of view, in terms of a living situation, and even professions they choose, the professions they choose. I think they need to have that foundation. But the fact is that it's not like, oh, it's fearful because this person's different and that person's not the same as me, and therefore then they don't have anything in common. But can you say something to the audience about the commonalities that can exist with people from your experience?
Yeah. I mean, I can, well, I can, I can go back to when you said, well, did you go to any of their parties?
Right.
Um, did they come to your home? Um, and we shared, they would not have come to play with me
Hmm.
had not their parents trusted that they were in a safe environment.
Exactly. Exactly.
First,
So it was a new thing for their parents probably as well, correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And not for all of the parents,
So
but for some. Um, and yeah, after a time, some of the white parents who lived in our community in our neighborhood moved out
yes.
uh, because there were too many Black people moving in. But oh, you know, we shared values, the value of a good education,
Yes.
and
And the importance of that.
the importance of a good education, which then pushes you forward and makes you think and makes you curious and involved and engaged and all of those good things that you need in order to become a good citizen, even
Exactly. 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 Okay.
good professional,
That's right.
a good partner, a personal partner.
Yes.
Nice.
So do you think that the experience that you had made a difference in your personal and professional life, in the direction you took professionally and personally?
Oh yes, yes, I believe so. You know, I mean, I'm thinking again. My parents would ask me, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?"
They
And
did.
yes, yes. And I said, "Now, I don't know. I mean, I can't pinpoint when they started asking me this, but they asked me, and I said, "Oh, I want to be a psychologist because I want to understand why people do the things they do."
Oh,
And so my father said, "Oh no, you don't want to be a psychologist. You want to be a school teacher." I said, "No, no, I want to be a psychologist." And he said, "But so if you're a school teacher, you can teach during year round. You'll have summers off. You can be married and have children. And so you can do all those things. You can have a profession and you can also have a family life." And I said, "Well, I can do the same being a psychologist."
now how old were you when you were thinking about this? Was like junior high school, high school? What
Probably in junior high,
right,
coming into high school and
right,
learning about the different professions.
right.
And then, at beginning, thinking about college and, and where I should go and all those progressions. And it's interesting because, when I did finally grow up and I'm still growing,
That's right.
I did become a psychologist. I also became a teacher
Yes.
because I taught seminars, but also workshops. I mean, teachers do that.
Exactly. So your father would be proud. See?
Very proud. I became a mother,
Yes,
mothers teach. I mean, how many ways can we think?
yes, yes. But
Teachers,
but but I'm thinking, do you think that that experience? But see, the key things that I take out is that parental support, the
yes,
foundation, okay, your spiritual life,
yes,
the school setting that provides excellent opportunities for
yes,
educational
yes,
experiences. All of those combined really has had an impact on your life then and now.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Then and now, not just that period of time, but
That's
it
exactly right.
influenced you. It influenced your life from that
That's
point
right.
forward.
That's
So,
right.
so then my question, Dr. Morris Carey, as a psychologist, would you in fact think that early on it's better to have this kind of experience as opposed to, say, high school?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, because early on, you are learning how to interact with people. You are learning your ABCs, as it were, your one, two, threes. You're learning those cognitive skills that you need, along with those personal skills. And if those are delayed, they affect how you are as you go forward. I mean, there's so many kids now who don't know how to read because they didn't get the foundation.
And that's so sad.
And that is so sad. And it's, and it's so incredible, but it's reality that oh my God,
It's frightening. To me, it's frightening.
that's what it is. It's frightening
Okay, it's frightening.
because, you say, well, they'll catch up. You don't catch up.
It's a period of time. If you don't get certain things exposed to certain things, certain time, you miss that particular opportunity. And there's something in terms of your experience and exposure that doesn't occur later on. You're like, okay, this can happen now, but if you miss this, then what happens later on?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying, but you're basically confirming a lot of the ideas and discussions that were
Mhm.
mentioned in my book about how people were experienced early on, as opposed to waiting later on in their lifestyles and how it impacted their lives, not just educationally and academically, but also personally, and making choices, having choices, being able to know that there are choices.
That's right.
Okay.
Having being realizing that there are choices
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
you don't have to settle for less.
Exactly. Exactly. It,
You
it, it doesn't limit you. Whereas I think now when I see what I see as a professor, the limitations that young adults see, the limitations they feel about their lives. And I'm thinking, where is that coming from?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They're coming from. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think early on, and that's why I said I'm concerned now, especially with the things that are happening in our society now. What's going to happen if people don't get to know each other and have experiences and exposure that you had and what I had? What's going to happen to them? And this is what I'm thinking. What's going to happen to our society as a whole? What are your thoughts about that?
Yes. What's going to happen? I want to just mention, sort of in a paren as well, that I was a middle two sisters at the time. I have another sister, a stepsister. We don't call her a stepsister, but she's a sister. But at any rate, I grew up with two sisters, and in the church, we were a trio, the Morris trio.
Okay.
I sang alto. I had a sister who sang soprano, and I had a sister who sang tenor.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Okay. So I never led,
Mhm.
but I provided a good foundation. I mean, alto, you've got to have an alto,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the point here is that was another stage that we were pushed onto. We had to perform. And maybe I was shy, but I had to get up on that stage and sing my part
Right.
and do my part. So I'm thinking about, you make me think about all of my early involvements, both in school, in the church,
Right.
in our community. Um, being a brownie,
Yes, I was a brownie too.
oh my goodness.
I recall those moments. Believe me, I know in the basement of the church. Yes, that was where we met.
Right. Going to vacation Bible school, just all of these things. So
Okay.
what's going to happen? What's going to happen now?
That doesn't exist now. Much of it doesn't
Yes,
exist now.
that's
They don't
exactly
have those
right.
experiences.
And
Oh,
you know, uh, kids don't go to church as much as we went to church. I mean, we had to go to church.
yeah.
Sunday was church all day.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that this podcast will help expose parents and other people about these experiences and how the importance of having exposure early on for young people to have these experiences so it can enhance their lives moving forward. That's the other thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being part of the Girl Scouts, being, some of these things that you say, oh my God, how could she even say that?
Oh, no. But it was,
Selling Girl Scout cookies.
yes. I mean, I still remember one of the songs that we sang, and it's interesting. I said to somebody recently, you remember? I said, yep, I still recall that song. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, the other is gold. That was from our Brownie and Girl Scout. Like, I still know it. It's a good day. And it resonates with me right now in terms of my lifestyle. So it impacted me from that point to today. So I think important that you've shared with the audience of having experiences, having the foundation, having the parental involvement, having the religious involvement, having the ability to work with people in different settings and different environments, being inclusive and inviting friends home, participating in the parties. Those are all, and speaking up for yourself, like you and your friends spoke up for yourself. Okay. But you had a buddy to support you. Come on. So that helpful as well, how people can get together and support initiative. These are all characteristics and issues that I think we should think about as we live in our society today. So as we move forward to closure to this episode, I want to thank you, Dr. Patricia Morris Carey, for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your humor with our audience today. And I think it's very important that we hear your voice. And thank you so much for sharing. Any last words before we close off?
Teresa, thank you. Because your questions, you made me think deeper. Memories.
Yes.
Bringing back memories.
And we need to share those. And that was one of the other things I think people don't think, but I want to share. We need to share this information with as many people as possible.
That's right.
Not to keep it to ourselves.
Exactly.
And that goes back to another song from church, but we won't go there. I'm just right. But thank you again. And I thank you so much for participating. And I look forward to being in touch with you later on at some other point.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for including me.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode.